Hi, Louis. We'll wait a little bit for everybody to join. Okay. How's everybody doing? Okay. Good. We'll start in a couple minutes. So we'll use a little bit of a new format today. So the lab will give you a little bit more in addition to the lecture. So. And don't forget, Monday there's no class. So for next Wednesday, I will add hands-on activity to the lecture, kind of like this week. Also, I updated your grade for week 1. So if you check out your grade, if you have any questions, let me know. Okay, so we'll go ahead and get started. It's 2. So today we're going to go over lab 2. If you haven't downloaded the lab, you can access Canvas and do so. And so today the lab consists of using variables. So we'll start with variables like what we did in the assignment. We'll also use print method and top of that, we also need to use we need to use format method, and we need to use input method. Okay. So to start, I'm going to go ahead and go into screen share. Stop me and ask question if you need to. So we will use our IDE or idle. It's up to you. So the first task is part A. And in this task, what we're going to look at is your common data type. So text, we're going to use string, as we've been working on for the last week or so. Numbers, we can use integers, float, and in our case, this week we don't use complex. And we cover bool in the lecture. So for the variable, with the variable, we can use the variable to store our data. It's a container with a label for the data. And what the computer does is it's going to cut that space, it dedicate that space, and it identify that space based on the label for your variable. In our lecture, we talk about how to name our variable. Just make sure that it's easy for you to see. You can use underscore. You would start your variable with a letter or a word, right? And you can follow it up with numbers and underscore. So we would use our upper lowercase letter to name our variable. So the example I have here is that I declare my variable called my name, and then I assign it Jane is a string. The second variable here is my age. I declare my age variable 25 is the integer. However, when we deal with input, we have to convert it, and that's down the line. So when we print the content of our variable, we simply use the print method, and then we would pass this variable in the parameter here. So basically, you just gotta make sure that it's matching with how you name your variable. And remember that Python is case sensitive. So if you type it with the uppercase letter, like a capital N or capital M here, you need to make sure it's exactly the same when you pass that variable. And the same thing for my age. So we want to display the content here in this example. So in the code block, I explained that we declared a variable, we assign it, and then we display the content by passing that variable into the parameter. So we can see what is contained in that variable. So it should say Jane 25, right? So our task is very simple. We are to create a program that display your name, age, and major, which is your study major, using variables. So for example, I will do one. So when you open idle, again, this is shell, and we want to open a new file. So that way we are in text editor. Okay. And what we have is we are going to have the shell to have the output. And here's our text editor. So we can start with the comment. And we want to display our name, age, and major. So we would declare our first variable. So you can simply call it name, or you can say my name, right? And then make it equal. And here you want to put it in quotation mark, and you can use single quotation mark or double. So we can put our name like before, and then we can say my age. And then we can say major. And here we want it again as string. So if you are computer science, you can put computer science. If you wanted to put cybersecurity, you can put cybersecurity, whatever you have for major. And then what we want to do is now we're going to display our text in our name and our major and then the number for our age. So we simply pass the variable, right? And if you want to be more detail oriented, you can say my name is, and comma, you can do my underscore name, which is your variable name. So you can add the variable name after a string. And we talk about concatenation, and or we can use, right, the variable in parameter like this. And then we can do another print. I am, and then my age. And then another print. My major is, I want a space after that, so my major. So simply this program is straightforward, right? It has 3 print method that shows the content of our variable, which is declared, and we assign the values. So the first one is string, the second one is the integer, and the third one is again string. So we can, after we write our program, make sure that you check and there's no typo. Otherwise, it's gonna throw an error, right? We're gonna go ahead and save it. And I'm gonna point to my drive, but you can save it anywhere you wish on your computer, like desktop. And that can get cluttered, so you might want it to put in a folder or something. So I can call this part A dot py for Python. So make sure you have the py extension for your file. Then we're going to go ahead and click save. Now we can press F5 or click run. And if everything works accordingly, we should have this, right, as output. It shows, it plugs in the assigned value for from your variable. Okay, so what we need to do is you can follow the task here, and the task simply asks you to write a program using variable and then assign it value, and then use print method to display your name, age, and major. So we need to take screen capture of our script and our output. So the shell and this. And then you can simply paste it onto a document, and you can submit one file which contains all the screenshot, and that just need to be docx or PDF. So the first one is very simple. Any question as far as part A? Very much like what we've done in our lecture session or our assignment from Monday.
Dr. Wen?
Yes.
Is there a way that we could do this all in one line, or is that?
Yeah, you can do that. I'm just a little bit more, thorough with more detail oriented with how I do this so my students can see. So this is a way that we can practice. But yeah, you have to declare the variable as in 3 separate entity, because it is a variable and it can only contain one specific type. Now you can combine the name and the major as, one string. So it would just say that KC cybersecurity.
Mhm.
But since we have multiple data type here, we have the string and the age is integer. So you technically cannot combine it as one group. So what we want to do is we still need to declare 3 separate variable, and then you can, of course, you can pass it as one print. So you can say print, this is my information, right?
Mhm.
So I can do like this, print, right, my information, right? And close that, and then you can bring in your variable and just use the separator, which is the comma,
Mhm.
right? And then where it's only going to be one print method. So with that, if you update it, you can save it again, Control S, right? And so now it's going to show in one line. Now, if you want to include, the comma with it, then you have to put in the comma as a string in between, so that way it actually breaks this up, so it makes it look nicer for the people that's reading your information.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, but if you don't have the comma as a string, it's just going to bring in the value, right,
Mhm.
as you separate it in the parameter.
Okay.
Okay. Yep.
Mhm. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other question? So pretty
Yeah,
simple. Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
so what would you add to make it go to another line?
So you would do a /n
Add slash
with,
n. Okay.
yeah. So that would give you the escape character.
Cool, cool. Thank you.
Yep. You're welcome. So that's how we can format it. And remember that you wanted to make it clean and nice, so that way the user or whoever is seeing your information would see it, and it just makes sense to them, right? And we develop or we write script for also other people to use, or in your case also it makes sense for developer and other developers to work on the project. So that's the part A. If you don't have any other question, I'll move on to part B. Okay, so input, as we left off with our lecture on Monday, we touched a little bit on this, but we want the user to interact with the system. So for our program, we can use the input, so that way the user can enter some kind of value, whether it's text or it would be numbers. So in the case, most of us, right, whether we're in cybersecurity or in computer science, you would see that a lot of the applications usually prompt the user to input their username and their password to log in, right, or to complete a form, like a registration form, where they would type in their information, like their username. They can create a username, their password for that account, also their general information like first name, last name, possibly address, phone number, etc. So it's a way that we can record the input, and we can report what they enter, and then we can use the variable to store the value. And remember, for Python, when you declare the variable, you've got to make sure that you have an assignment. So if we don't have anything, we got to give it 0, right? So if you want it to have a specific type of data, you have to tell it that this is an integer or this is a string. Otherwise, right, it's going to see it as just text input. So here, what you have is you have an example that we have username, and we simply start with the input method and we say enter your name. and then we can print it, right? You can say you've entered, this is your name. So now in this example, we use two methods. The first method is to allow the user to enter the text. And the second method is to display what they have entered by passing the variable that store that text in here inside the print method. So that's the explanation for that code block there. So what we want to do is we want to create a program or script that asks the user to enter name, age, height, weight using input. Then we can display, and this is very similar to what we've done on Monday. So this is very much of a review. So you can start out with using the input in the declaration of the variable to prompt the user. So you can do it all in one line. And that's the nice thing about Python is it's a lot quicker to really get everything in one shot. So here I'll start with the comment. So we would say Python program to ask for user name, right, age, height, and weight. And when you test the program, you have to input arbitrary values for each of the inputs, so that way it would record that and display, right? And then we would print recorded value. So to start, we would have user name, right? Or you can say user full name, however you want to do that. And then we want to look at, if you refer to the example, we want to start it with the input, right? And then enter your name like this, okay? So input, and we would say enter your, you can say full name or and then the second variable we are going to put user age, and then again we can say enter your age. User height, input, enter your height. Now this gets into the area where, okay, do you want the data to be in specific type, right? And if you want the data in specific type, you have to make sure that it converts it. And going back to our lecture on Monday, we talk about how it talks about conversion and also formatting string, okay? So it's really up to the developer on what is the objective of your program. Are you going to take that data and do something with that data? So let's say that we are creating a program that's going to, you know, calculate their health status based on weight, height, and the information that they input. So in that sense, then we want to utilize the value that they input for the height and the weight in the next process is to calculate out like calories intake, exercise regimen, etc. Then we have to think about the type of data we want to use there. Otherwise, if we simply just print out the information, then we can just take what they've input, right, to redisplay it. But in idle, it actually shows as the user input there when you were testing it. So user weight, and then we would say input, enter your weight. And to print all of this in one shot, you can say you have entered. Okay, now we can make it look a little nicer in the summary for the user. We can say name is, right? And then we would do a comma, and then you would put username. And if you wanted to do it all in one line, you can say open another string, and then age is, I'm gonna add the comma before this, so that way it sees it. Age is, right? And then we would do comma user age. And so forth. So as you can see, and then height is, and there are many ways that we can approach this, right? And this is just one way. So user height. So as you continue this, you can add additional string to make it a little cleaner, right? And easier to see. Weight is user weight. And make sure that we check everything our variable name needs to match. Otherwise you get an error. So we can go ahead and click File, Save As. And I can just put user.py. And then let's see. So here we would have name would be KC, age 42, height, I forgot the colon there, is, let's say I am, we can do 60 inches or we can do 5.2. Weight is 126. So it shows. Now, if you wanted to add additional units, then you would put it in the string in between so that way it looks a little bit better. But you get the general idea by doing this, right? So we can, I'm gonna have to fix this real quick because it drives me crazy. Okay. Okay. So we want to make sure that we, because when we test it, we want to make sure that we input the value, right? And then we would see if it's going to output in one print. Okay, any questions? So here's my program. Oops. Here's my program, right? And here is my output. Down here. Okay, so this is part B, where we would use input method and variables.
Question,
Yes.
are we gonna learn later how to like get rid of that space between like the name and the comma?
Yeah, no, because so technically you don't have to put the space. Python automatically added that white space. So like I can do this and it will clean it up. Okay, so let me rerun this so you can see. Okay, so, oh, sorry. I should have included this a little cleaner, but as you can see, it's the way it's formatted. So yeah, you can format the string. So we'll touch a little bit on format later today, because the way that this is used is that this is when you're looking at string, right? Think of it as a list of characters, or in C++, we used to say that it is a sequential array of characters. So when it looks at this, it's simply just saying that, you know, when you enter Casey, right, it's looking at the index for each of the character. And when you add this comma right here, it's just going to treat it at that's the index for that symbol. So we'll talk about formatting toward the end of this lab.
Wait, are you saying that that space is part of the string?
Yeah, so it added that extra space right here. See how it's added that extra space? Well, earlier I had it added the extra space there, but when I got rid of it, it moves it over. But with the space in between here and here is because it added that space after it brought down the value from the variable.
So is that part, that has an index number?
Yeah, so so this has an index number here, Casey, what I have entered. But the way that they had it formatted, this white space get automatically added after that variable was entered with the separator. So because I brought in this right here, right? And automatically after this, it added a space as it separates from the next one and the next one.
So that's more of a separator than an index.
Yes.
Like, okay.
Right. But we can utilize the sequence in characters in the string and format the sequence of that to make it cleaner. Yeah, so because I use this the separator, so you notice that even after my name is, right, I have no space there, but because username came in and it added that space after the username, okay, to separate it from the next piece in the parameter, the next argument in the parameter.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Other question? Okay, so are we okay with this? Okay, so go through part B, create the program real quick, right? That's pretty straightforward and easy. And if you need to watch this video again, I will try to put it on. The Zoom takes a little bit afterwards, and then I'll link it to Canvas. Okay. So in part B, we created a program using input. So part C, we're going to touch on how we're going to convert. Because remember that when the user enter, if you don't put the data type in the front of the input, when the user enter the data, it's going to see it as string, so as text. So now in this one, we're going to also use operator, which kind of lead us into the next chapter, but we will preview the next chapter by looking at operators. So these are just the arithmetic operators, and we would have the plus sign right, to do the addition, the minus sign to do the subtraction, the slash here to use to divide, and the asterisk is to use for multiplication. So in this example, we have num1, and we declare this variable as num1. Then we're going to assign it. Based on this, we're going to use the input method to prompt the user to enter the first number. And we want to convert this into integer, so that way we can operate the arithmetic calculation. For the second number, we would do the same thing. We declare it as num2. And in the assignment portion, again, we want to specify that it is an integer data type. And we want to prompt the user to input the second number. Then when we print, now if you want to be, more thorough, then you can create a third variable and you can make it sum num1 plus num2, but we can handle all of that inside the print method. So in the print method, we simply have a string saying that your total is, and we would do num1 plus num2, and that's going to add it. So in the argument, we simply add up the value, the first value and the second value that the user have entered, and we want to display that. Okay. So based on this example, I explain a little bit under the code block information here, just like what I have talked about right now. So our task is to create a program that asks the user to enter 4 numbers. And we want to display the sum and the average. And for the average, we simply add all the numbers together and divide it by the number of the however many numbers that we're using. So if we have 4, we'll add all the 4 values together and then divide it by 4. So that's pretty simple. So what we need to do is we need to make sure we're using variables for each of the number, right? And in this case, we're not doing lists yet, right? You can use lists to implement in this program, and that's in the future, of course. So we just want to practice using the variable. So I'm going to go ahead and open a new file. Let me close this one. So I'll comment. So I said that Python program to prompt the user to enter 4 numbers. And then it's going to print the sum of the entered values and average of entered values. So we can do num1 like this, right? Or you can do num1, number 1, however you wanted to do that. Just when you use your variable, just avoid using keywords, right? Or just make it very easy to see for yourself. So we wanted to make it integer, right? And we would do input, and we would prompt the user, enter the first number. And then we can do num2. And if you wish to, you can print out what they enter, but we will do a 1 print at the end. Int input. Enter the second number. And then we can do the same thing for the third number, sorry. Int input, enter the third number. 4 int. So here we have our variables is declared, and we want to prompt the user for each of the variable. We want to prompt the user to input, and we want to make sure that it is they're each integers. So now we can do a print, and we can say the total or the sum of entered values, right? And then we would go ahead and do num1 plus num2 plus num3 plus num4. So now what we have is we have the sum of this by adding all of those numbers together. And if you want to put the space in between to make it nicer looking for your code, doesn't really matter. There. Okay. And then you can do the average. So here I'm going to go ahead and save this and run so you can see.
Space doesn't matter.
Oh, within the parameter, no. But if you use it in string space, it would show the space. So we can do user numbers dot py. And then you can do the next print, you can do the average, right? And make sure that we use parentheses. So we want to add it up and then divide it by 4. Okay. So we want to have this sum. Now, if yes.
Could we have created a separate variable to make that calculation?
Sure, that will be great. And I will do that with you. Sum, right? And then, so you can do sum int. Actually, then we can bring this up. And then here you can simply pass it. And then with the next one, that will be easier. So I'm going to separate this so you can see it better. Okay. It taps it for me because technically we should tap it. But the average of entered values. So we would do sum divided by 2. I mean 4. I don't know why I was thinking of 2 there. So click save. Let's see. Oh, I have a syntax here. num2. Why is it tracking this as that? So let me troubleshoot this real quick.
You didn't add the two parentheses after
Oh yeah,
you.
that's right. I didn't have a close. Thank you. I just see it right now. Thank you, Chris. Yeah, I have two open and not two closed.
It
So,
was Andrea.
yeah.
She pointed out on chat, and I was like,
Oh,
second
thank you.
parentheses. Yeah.
Thank you. All right, got it. So we got, let's say 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to test. And the average is 4.5 for the test.
We could have done it our own way, though, right? We don't have
Oh
to.
yeah, no. Yeah, you can do it whatever you wish to do as long as you have implemented the requirement. Yeah, this is just an example. I don't want to force you to do a certain way. Whatever you like. Sure. If you're familiar with lists, right? We'll get into lists later on. But questions? Okay. So now if you wanted to do another variable for the average and then bring down that variable, that will be fine. So another way would be like AVG, right? AMP equal sum divided by 4. Then here we can simply pass it as AVG, INP, and then so it will give us the sum and the average.
So can you do like for example, I was thinking about this. You know how we have to automate everything? Can you actually, like in C++, you know how you have all four? Is there a way where if you're putting in a program and in another case it's 5 numbers, but you don't, when you write the program you only have 4 numbers, but in the future you add an extra number, but since you put the hard 4, that means it's only gonna divide it into 4.
It's
But
better to use lists, or in C++ since it will be array.
yeah,
So yeah, we'll talk about how you can allocate, right? Like you can create a list and
okay.
then you can use the index of that list,
Oh yeah, okay.
right? So yeah, so you can add the values from the list, all of the values that entered. So because you don't know how many numbers they might enter, right? So
Yeah,
you can ask them to enter as many numbers as they want. So yeah, basically you can create the list and then every input is going to go into each index of that list. So you can
okay,
do it
cool.
that way. Yeah.
All right.
We'll get into lists in the next few weeks. So
Python, could you actually write whole programs like in C++ and all that?
very similar, yes. So programming concept is almost, it's the same, so you still use index value, it's just syntax is different. And then there's, because it contains more libraries. So there's a lot of like some of the things that's already incorporated. So we don't have to bring in a lot of external library unless it's required.
Okay.
So yeah, same as JavaScript, concepts the same. Use variable, use, a container. So basically we refer to it as container identifier. Okay. All right. Question?
Oh,
Okay. Yes, Cynthia.
I had a question. When I was trying to, when I was putting in the numbers, I noticed that it doesn't accept decimals. Is there?
Yes, because we had told it to do integer only.
Oh, okay.
A float,
Yeah.
right?
Yes, so you would use float. So that you have to specify the type of data. So if you intend to allow a float, then you just specify the data type that you want. Okay.
So instead of putting int, I would just put float.
Yeah. So,
Why
and
wouldn't you
we'll,
just use float to begin with in case they do decide to put?
you can do that. If
What's the point of the difference of that? Like for like memory allocation
yes.
management?
And also you wanted to clean up your data too. So from a perspective that, you know, if outside of resource management, right? If you want specific number type, then you want to really control what they should input.
Right.
That so you don't have to clean it up later. Or from the security standpoint, right? Because if you give them more flexibility, there could be other possibility.
Like buffer
So
overflows and stuff.
yeah, exactly. Good point.
Input validation.
Yeah. And when we do input validation, you know, basically we tighten the control. And we also assist on the end where we clean up the data there too. So other questions? Okay, so now all right. Anything with C? Nothing else with C? Okay, so this gets a little harder. Okay. So now we are going to convert. So here the task, it tells you that you have 1 mile is equal to 1.60934 kilometer. 1 meter is 39.3701 inches. And 1 foot is 12 inches. So we want to convert some of our unit to the metrics, right, as the rest of the world. So here I have an example. So the distance is, so basically we ask, let's say that we create a program to calculate the distance that a runner would run, or a car would travel, or, you know, a biker would travel on his bike or her bike. So we have the distance. Let's say that you start with the integer as input right here. So we have int type here. Then we have the user input the distance in miles. And if you want decimal, then you would want to include the decimal, because sometimes you would want the user to input 6.5 miles, right? Or 6.2 miles. But if you want it, in my case, I just use the whole number here, because most people would say, oh, I ran 2 miles, or I drove 10 miles, etc. Okay. Now the conversion variable here is I simply wanted to convert it into kilometer. Okay. And then I print travel distance is, right? And then I bring down the distance times mile. Okay. And then that's going to give me the kilometer. So here it gives you the explanation on that. Okay. Now for our program, I want you to create a program that's going to prompt the user and to input his or her height in feet and inches. And you can do it in separate, prompt if you want. Okay. Now, if you do it in the same prompt, you can force the user to convert it all in inches first, right? To make it simple, or however you want to approach this. So we wanted to get their height ultimately, and then we want to convert it into meter. So here it gives you the requirement. Okay. So now let's say that if you prompt them to enter it in inches, right? So first you can ask for their height and then you can convert it. Okay. So if let's say that I put in that I am 62 inches, then I can take the 62, right? And I can divide it by this number to get the meter. Okay. So this is a little bit more challenging. I thought I did one just to test when I wrote this. So give me a second. Let me see if I can pull it up, or otherwise I'll write it with you. Maybe I'll just write it because I think I might have not saved it. Okay, so what we can do is you can start with creating a new file and then put in your, let me try it again. Put in your comment and then declare your variable. Okay. Let's see if I can open. It's just a test. Yeah, maybe I saved it somewhere. I don't remember. Okay, so okay, in feet, inches, then convert to meter and display meter values. Okay, so we can say user height is equal to. So how do you approach this? Let me ask your opinion on how you want to approach this. Anybody started on this already?
Yes, I already finished it. So what I did is I first asked, I print what is your height. Then my second line is I just put feet with a double colon and my input, my int input double colon, and then I did another line and input. So in other words, it's just feet. So for example, I'm 6'3". I put 6, and then once you press enter, it goes. I should have specified on the very first prompt.
Chris, share screen. Share screen,
Oh,
Chris.
share screen. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
man, you're confusing the hell out of us.
Because we're like, what? All right, I enable it, so you should be able to do that.
Okay, so am I sharing now?
Yes, we can see partially. So yeah, pull your,
Where?
yeah, there you go. A little bit more to the right.
To the right?
Yeah.
Right there?
Mm-hmm. Can
So,
everybody? Yep, very good.
and then this is my output right here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we'll do some control with the output format in a little bit. Good. Okay, so you have them enter their feet and wait.
Sorry.
But you didn't use integers, not a float.
Well, yeah, because what I did is, okay, are you guys seeing it again?
I can see it, yeah.
This one right here, it converts the feet since I asked, let's see, let me run it real quick. Since I asked how many feet, obviously I'm 6'3" personally. I put 6. So obviously and then I put I'm 6'3", right? So that 6 I converted over here. I times that by 12, and then I added a 3. So that means that I have in total I'm 75 inches. And then when I do the 75 inches, I divide that by the given, which is a meter is 39.3701. So you get what I'm saying? So in other words, I make it as simple as I can. So because I mean, you could practically ask them to do the conversion, their inches to themselves, but usually
They're not.
I remember taking another class. I don't know, it was you, Professor Nguyen, or Professor Fast, who told me you have to make it as simple as you can for
Yes.
people. You don't want them to work
Right,
hard.
because they might not know how to do it and they might enter the wrong thing. So the way Chris has it here is that he has asked them two separate things. I would do it this way, right? You ask for how many feet is your height, how many inches is your height. And yes, you can start out with float right away. And then you would take the feet, you multiply it by 2 to really convert it into inches first. That's the first piece. That's why he had convert inch. And then plus the height inch, which is going to give you the total inches
Right.
that for that user. And then you would take that and convert it to a meter. And then you would have the meter output. And yeah, we will get into decimal control at the end, but so that works. Okay. And if you want to have it where, you know, it's all in one thing, well, because we're using variables. So we'll get back to lists later on, but yeah, this works. And there would be another approach where if you wanted to have it float, right? But yeah, I think this is efficient. What is there another approach anybody wants to share? Good job, Chris.
Thanks.
Okay.
Good stuff, bro.
Thank you.
All right. So this is how I would do it as well.
I better not see anyone copying.
Okay. Any question? So you can have an idea of how that is done, right? And then you can start with, and the way Chris has it is 2 prompt. Okay. Okay. So that is part D. So we wanted to declare 2 variables, one for feet and one for inches. Okay, then we should convert it, right? So feet, we would multiply it by 12. Inches, we would just add that to the inch conversion. Then we would take that total from the inches and then we would convert that to meter. And then we would output. Okay. Any question with part D? So part E is your cloud storage problem. So the task it gives you is that there's a cloud company that charges the client $100 per month to store 750 gig of data. And then anything after that, it will cost the client $5 per gigabyte. So to do the program, we want to prompt the user to input the amount of data to be stored in the cloud. Then we will calculate the cost of the storage based on the user input. Okay. Now, I approach this with just a simplified way, but you can expand this a lot further, right? And then, you know, with obtaining more information from the user. So I created one just to save the time for you guys to. So this one, when I run it, as you can see, it's on console. So let's say that I have 900 gig that I actually require for my company, right? And let me redo this. Let me open it in Python so that way you can see. Open. Okay, so here's my program. And I simply just use integer because in general, we can say a little bit more about storage that's needed. So we just ask, okay, and we can specify 750 is for the $100 and then anything in addition. So what I did was I had the input enter the storage need in gigabyte, and then that will be integer type and the input here for the method. My monthly cost is $100. And the additional storage for the customer storage, we wanted to take whatever they input and subtract it, assuming that they need higher than 750, right? I didn't control it where, you know, if it's subtracted, it would be negative, right? So what if the customer needs less, right? So technically, realistically, we should state the criteria. So we haven't gone into if else statement and conditional statement yet. So what we want to do is just to use variable here. So I didn't implement any condition for this. And then for my additional fee is I'm going to take the additional storage, which I find from the difference by subtracting 750. And then I'm going to multiply it by 5. And you can have a variable called additional cost. That's fine. Okay. And that would hold the $5. So I simply just multiply it by 5 here. And then my total cost is additional fee plus the monthly fee. Okay. So now if we, for the monthly cost and the additional cost, then you would have the total cost. Okay. So let's save this and then we're going to go ahead and run. So let's say I need 900 gigabyte and then my monthly cost and additional storage cost is $850. Okay. So for any gigabyte that we went over, we have to pay $5 extra. And this is, you know, not a realistic value, but, you know, you get the sense of how this can be done. Okay. So that will be my program for part E. Any questions regarding this? So the whole point in this is to give you a little bit of practice using variable and then working with data types. In general, so far we work with some float and some int and string.
So wait, hold on. So, oh, okay, each additional gig. Never mind. Just kidding.
Oh, okay. So I have total requirement. The monthly fee is $100.
That's kind of expensive though, isn't it?
Yes, very. Usually it's only like a few cents over each gigabyte. So yeah, I didn't really use, you know, the realistic charges. I just wanted to make it so you guys can see. $5 is kind of easy, right? We can put $1 for any additional gig and yeah, it will be less. It is expensive, $850. So because it's gigabyte, right? Let's say it's terabyte, then $100 per month plus, you know, any gig that goes over or any terabyte that goes over is, you know, $5 or stuff like that. Then yeah, that might be more adequate. Question? Okay. So this is the cloud program for part E. Very simple. And yes, we can definitely improve this program. So let's say that you want to create, yes, Christian.
Yeah, Melissa has a question
Okay,
on chat.
let me check. Okay, 1 second, let me pull up chat. Okay, Melissa, what's your question? You can type it. Yeah, so okay. So let's
That's
say that if it's less than 750, then you would have a negative value. So in this case, it would be best if we put in the conditions, right? Like technically we should put in the condition to make sure that we control it over 750. So if the user's input is less than 750, then we would prompt them again and make sure that it's over 750. But if the user input is greater than 750, then we would put it to store. Okay. Yeah. So because we haven't talked about conditional statement yet, so I didn't want to throw that in here to confuse everybody and get everybody.
so
But
for
yeah.
this one, you should ask if how much storage will you need has to
Over
be greater.
750.
Yeah, over
Yeah.
750. Yeah,
Mhm.
you have to add it on the initial prompt.
So I'll go back to screen share real quick, okay? And then I can fix it. Yes.
Wouldn't that just be a flat fee? Like, you know how companies are that you have to buy a minimum, and so they're not going
Right.
to charge you less
Right.
for less than 750.
Exactly. They would just say that even if you use less, you still have to pay $100. So we can say up to 750, right? So here we should have some kind of string displaying saying that, you know, this is a fixed flat fee, $100 a month for any usage up to 750 gig. And then we would ask them to enter the amount of data that you would need, right? So now if we truly want to control it in the back, we would have to implement the condition for that, saying that it has to be greater than 750. If it is greater than 750, then we would have it stored in that variable and then be able to calculate it. Okay, so yeah, that way we can control the input validation there. Yeah, so this program definitely can be expanded. Just a little bit of practice with how we would apply some kind of real world case scenario into our programming. Okay, so next one. So that's the cloud storage. Any other questions with that? I did a similar one for my Java class, but that's when they get into arrays, or what in Python we would refer to that as lists. But in this one, we're just going to use the variable. So our task is to create a program that will calculate the cost for the 3 rooms that Victoria wants to install the new floor. Okay, so the area of the room is length times width. So she has 3 rooms. She has a living room and the length is 8 feet and the width is 20 feet. The master bedroom is 15 feet by 12 feet and the kitchen is 14 feet by 12 feet. And we know that the flooring company charges Victoria $4.57 per square foot for the store installation with, you know, that's assuming maybe it was with material or whatnot. So that's their charge. So we wanted to first find the area of each room so we can calculate how much each room is going to cost, right? Then we can calculate the total areas of all 3 rooms and the cost of all 3 rooms. So let me open it up. I think I did it. With the longer program, I tend to pre-do it so I can test it, and also, you know, you guys don't have to wait for me to type. So here's my program. So I started with a comment to let myself know what program that is, and then my square foot cost. I know that it's $4.57 per square foot. And when you find the area, technically the unit for that is square foot. So the living room length is 18. The living room width is 20. So I created 2 variables to hold those values. Then I calculate the area of the living room. So by multiplying the length times width. Then I print out the cost for the floor just for the living room. The reason why I wanted to do this is that sometimes when the customer, when they look at it, they might say, oh, well, all 3 rooms is kind of expensive. I don't have the money for that. Then I'll just do the living room and the master bedroom, and I'll wait for the kitchen later. Or maybe I'll select a different material for the kitchen, right? So we kind of wanted to give them the detailed costs in this case. Then again, I did the master bedroom here by specifying the length. So I declare the variable for length, put in the value for the width, right? And then I would have the area for the master bedroom. Then I print out the cost. And here I multiply the square footage cost with the area to get the actual cost for that room. Next, I have the kitchen. So with the kitchen, if you want, you can comment it to make it look nice. So the kitchen, I have the length and the width. Here, assign the value. Then I do the area calculation. Then again, I print out the cost for the kitchen floor. Then I have the total area variable to add up all the 3 areas of all 3 rooms. From there, I can take that total area to calculate the total cost by multiplying it by the square foot cost. And then I threw this in here so you guys can preview, but we'll talk about format on the next exercise. This is one way. So what we're doing is we're using the format, the built-in format method. And we want it to be in decimal for the decimal positions too. So I'm going to go ahead and run this so you can see. So it tells me that the cost of the living room floor is $1,642.45. And I didn't format that then. So technically, yes, I can format it. And then the cost of the master bedroom floor is $822.60. The cost of the kitchen is $767.76. And the total cost for all 3 floors is $3,235.56. Okay. And yeah, I didn't put the symbol for this here, but if I want, I can add that dollar symbol there so that way it shows the dollar symbol. Okay, and this is one way, of course, right? If you might have other technique where you would program and it would still yield the output. Any question? Now, this might not be realistic prices as well, right? Sometime that you would see. We don't know what kind of material she's using. Sometimes it's more or less, but you generally get an idea. So when you look at these app that you see for flooring company, right? They would have you select the material and the size, the dimension of your room, and it would give you an estimate. And most of the time it would do an estimate of the material and then the estimate of the labor. So based on the dimension, it can calculate the material based on your selected option and then the labor. So we can definitely expand on this and make it more business oriented, where we would have like a list of different type of flooring, and then, you know, ask the user to select from that list. And then from there, it can determine the material costs, and then it will calculate the material cost for each of the room. And then it would, you know, and then it would calculate the cost for the labor for the installation. So definitely would be, you know, we can scale it out and make it more feasible for a flooring company. And I want to incorporate business perspective in programming, because whether you work in security or you work in development, right? Everybody works under some kind of organization. So we want to make sure that we can solve problems for business. Okay, any question with part F? No question. You guys are pro now, huh? This is fun, right? Not too bad. Easy to start.
I love programming.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's been
well,
fun.
yes, good. Yeah,
Yeah, it's moving along kind of quick, but I guess that's cool.
yeah. I mean, you know, Python is very nice that it has a lot of the functionality already, right? The library that you can use in Python is great. So this kind of gives you a little bit of understanding on how format, and we'll get into the next one. So technically, I'm jumping a little bit ahead in a lot of this, but I want you to do it first, and then, you know, when you read it in the textbook, you're like, oh, okay. So we touch a little bit on the F, you know, as format with string when we talk in our lecture session on Monday. But here it gives you a little bit more understanding on how you can look at numbers and decimal. Okay, so in part F, you saw some of that now. I mislabeled this, I think. Yeah, so this should be G. I apologize. Okay, so format is, it allows you to format string to something that's nicer. Okay. And there are two types of parameters that it would take. First is the position. And the way that we look at this is it would be a list of sequential characters, right? So when you're looking at a string, so if I type out my name, KCKASEY, it would look at K as the first index, which is index 0. And then A is the next index, which is index 1. So the first letter in that string is always going to be index 0. Okay, so it looks at it's a list of parameters that's accessed by index. So that's one per type of parameter. The second type of parameter, it would use the keyword, right? So I can have name for Casey, right? That would use that the keyword name inside that parameter. So the key is the value. Now what we want is we want it to return a formatted string, some kind of formatted text that the user can see and say, oh, that makes sense to me. And earlier you saw that we used that with the decimal. So here is an image that kind of show you how that would be. Okay, so let's say that I would do hello and 0 can refer to as Adam. Okay, so the 0, the argument 0, it's gonna reference Adam. And the argument 1 here, right, it's gonna reference this number, 230.235. Okay, now we would use the dot format. And in this, we would say that this, in the argument, we would say Adam as a string, right? And the value 230.2346. Okay. So what that does is when it output, it's going to plug in Adam for the argument 0. And then the balance is 230.235 because here we tell it to have 3 decimal and it's going to round up the 4/6 to 5. Okay, so here it gives you the explanation. So what the 9 does is it's become the placeholder, but if you count the digits here, there are 7 digits. And when we do the 9, it adds the 2 additional digits that's in the back. So when they use the 9 there, what that 9 does is it has the 2 additional nothing digits, right? For those, for the value. Okay. Now the 3 here allow us to have the 3 as decimal after it's formatted. And it's going to round it up. So it's going to ceiling that. Okay. So this is one way that we would use the parameter. Okay. And it gives you each of the explanation here. Okay. So when you're looking at the pieces, you can see 9 specify the minimum width where it's padding that number to what it can take. So 9 places, including the decimal. Okay. Any question with that so far? Okay, another way that we can use the format is with the key parameter. So basically we would identify name as Adam. And we would use the balance, right? And here in this, using the curly brace, of course, we would have BLC, and BLC is going to be equal to this.
So we would have the variables already, what's it called, placed, right? Before you write this line, we would have name equals Adam and BLC equals 230.2346.
No, in this example, you simply give it a key value. So you basically give it an identifier, and it automatically references that identifier with what you put in parameter here, Chris.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it's similar to the other one.
Yeah, so it's all in one. So technically, yes, you can establish the variable and then bring the variable down when you display it. Sure, you can do that. But this is another approach. Earlier, Cynthia asked, can you do it all in one line? Yes, you can do it all in one line.
Okay, that answers the question, yeah.
Yeah. So I want to come back to that at the end, right? I wanted to say, yeah, you can do it all in one line. We can skip all the extra detailed stuff. Sure, that makes it look very clear right? For somebody that's beginning to program, you can declare the variable, assign the value, but yes, you can have it all in format in one line, which is nice. Okay, so we can use the key, and that key would reference right here this string, and then this would reference this value and then format it all in one. So you would have it as hello Adam, your balance is, and if we wanted to make it 2-digit, right, with the cents and dollars, then we can say 2F, like what we did in the previous one. Okay. Any question?
Dr. Nguyen?
Yes.
I have a little question. Well, just a question. So for the F, you always put point format after.
Yes.
Okay.
Because this is the way that they have it as in for the library. Yes. So the format method,
Mhm.
it needs to be this way. Yes.
Oh, okay. And then are
Be-
those brackets you mentioned those brackets are referring to libraries or?
This? Oh no. So
Oh,
when you're
okay.
using the curly braces like this, the
Okay.
curly braces just tell idle, right?
Mhm.
That it's either index or it's key. And in the second example, we're using key. So basically we say name, right? And name is a key for Adam. It's like how we would use a variable and we assign Adam to it, right? It's just instead of using a variable that way, what we're doing is we have a key here, and that key is gonna reference Adam.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's an identifier. It identifies Adam, and then this key right here is gonna identify this value. It's
So,
just
I'm
yeah.
sorry.
Go ahead.
Does the BLC, does that refer to an index or is that still a key?
No, that's still key.
That's
Yeah,
still
so so BLC, you can call it BAL, so it identifies this value
Mhm.
and this value. So basically it's a shortcut to what we've been doing is we're using a variable as identifier to a certain value, right? Like Adam or that number. But we can do it all in one line by using this, and we can format it at once.
Okay. Okay, awesome.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Question? All right. So that's an example. And I gotta give prop to my husband who said that I should incorporate this in this lesson for you guys because, he said that, well, you should give it to them since you talk about variable and format, so you should tie that into your lesson. So I did some editing to my original lab, and so I incorporated it. Yeah.
Well,
All right.
I think if you learn this earlier on, it'll help you out in the long run because it
Oh
will
yeah.
save you a lot of
Definitely.
time.
Yeah, it's definitely efficient, right? And the whole point in this is to give you different approaches on how you would write the program. And as you expand and see the capability of Python and what we can use in Python, you're gonna see that it's really nice. It's learn, and it says, well, why do you have to write 4 lines when you can write 1 line? And he tells me that all the time. He said that, why do you need to work harder when you just write 1 line? And I said, okay, well, how to do that, right? Okay. So fast shipping is the task. This fast shipping company charges $2.66 per pound for the ground shipment. And Jack, he sells electronics online, so he wants to ship the following items to his customer. We got a tablet, that's 1 pound. We got a laptop, that's 7 pounds. We got a 55-inch TV, that's 37 pounds. how much would Jack spend on shipping these electronics? Now, traditionally, what we can do is we can, but you still have to use variable in this. You can do the shortcut with the format on how you want it to print out. That's fine, right? So you can use the key, right? Like you can say TV, and you can say TV ship cost is, and then you can do it there. So we need to really calculate, the shipping costs for each of these items, okay? So technically we know that the tablet would be 1 pound times $2.66. That is $2.66, right? And then the laptop, you just take 7 times that, and then the TV, you would take 37 times that, okay? So here I give you a little formula. Your shipping cost is your shipping rate, which is $2.66 times weight, okay? And then, so what we can do is we can find the shipping cost. You can use your variable, or if you want to be creative, you can go back to this, right? And then you can use the key to be able to format your output. So you can say, shipping costs, right? TV is, and then you can format your value, okay? Now, I'm not going to do this one for you. I want you to think about it and do it on your own, because there's no point to copy my code, right? So I want you to attempt it. And then give me a screenshot of your program and give me the screenshot of your output. Okay.
Is there like any other practice programs we can keep on doing aside
Yeah,
from these?
if you actually get the license for the book, it has some practice stuff in there. But what I'll do is I'll give you some link for some of the, and of course HackerRank got tons of stuff that you can do for Python as well. Also Makerspace is running its, mini version of this. The lab tech, they're gonna do some tutorial in this soon, after mid-September, and then they will have a competition for Python, they told me, and HTML and other stuff. So I'll share with you some flyer. But yeah, practice wise, I encourage you to use websites. They did put in some links in the resources for you, the course resources. So you can take a look at those links. So if you are a whiz at this, you can go through some of the challenges and see where you rank or how many questions you can solve. But and then I'll find more stuff and I'll add it on there for you. But good question, Chris. Any other question? Yeah, I did a similar one to this in my Java class too, but using array. So, okay.
Dr.
Yes,
sorry.
Cynthia.
Sorry, I just have I think I'm just I'm making it confusing for myself, but what is the difference between index and key? I don't really see.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm just.
So you understand the key piece, right?
Yeah, I understand the
Okay,
key.
right. So the index, all it is it's going to refer to this right here, okay? So think of this as one element, and this is another element in the parameter, okay? And the first element is always going to be 0, okay? So it's looking at these two as a list, okay? And the first one right here, this string is going to be element 0 because it's first. And then this value right here is the next element, which is 1. Okay. So in a list, it's always going to start with 0 because it's sequential. It starts with the 0 for the first element, and then the next one is going to be a 1. And in a list, let's say if we have 5 elements, we would have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So when it's referring to the index, it's referring in to the element in the argument in that parameter. So since this is the first argument, that's going to reference Adam. Okay. So if I have Paul here, it's going to say Paul. If I have Peter or Patricia, it's going to say Patricia, right? Because it's just going to say, oh, that's the first thing, right? And then second is the 1 here, which is this value. So if I have 5,000 here and I tell it to have to reference the second argument, then it's going to say 5,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank
Okay.
you.
You're welcome.
For these last ones, can I make it a little more difficult and prompt the user?
Yeah, sure. If you wanted to do input, that's great. Sure. You can challenge yourself to make more of a advanced program than what it's asked. Definitely. I'm okay with that. As long as you apply the concept that we've been using and we've been practicing, sure. That's great. Okay. Yeah, go above and beyond. I don't mind with that. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. So for the last one should be G, right, for the shipping company. You can create your program, take a copy of your code or your script, and then take take a screen capture of your code and your output, and that's what you submit. So you can upload the screen captures for the assignments, or if you put it all in one document, just upload the document. Okay. And that would conclude our lab exercises. I didn't have it due today, but if you finish it today, you can definitely submit it. I didn't grade the current week yet. I wanted to give everybody the opportunity to complete everything before I start going through the grade book. So in the case where if you did miss something like discussion or whatever from last week, you can still go back and do it. If you add it to the course late, I don't usually penalize you for turning stuff in late because for the first week, because I understand that you just got added to the class. However, just make sure that you check your grade and have everything in there. If you turn in something and you got a lower grade than you expected, look at my comment. If it's missing something, I would usually point that out. But in general, if you completed all the required tasks, you would get a full score. Okay, so next week we're gonna go over the next couple of chapters. So if you want to pre-read that, you can. Again, we don't have class on Monday, so you know, hopefully you don't forget and try to get on Zoom. But I will be again on Zoom and I will post stuff for Wednesday. So we'll just do one thing for Wednesday that's going to address hands-on and our lecture portion. Okay, so that way we don't have to delay the concept and then move forward with that. Okay, any other questions? Anything? Any comments? Okay, well, I want to thank you for attending our lab session. Hope you have a wonderful afternoon. It's nice and cool now. And then I'll see you here next Wednesday. If you want, you can type in your name, but I'm going to pull attendance roster from the participant list.
Professor,
Yes.
did you happen to see my the last lab or the last assignment rather?
This is Louis. Who's asking?
No,
I'm sorry.
Ray. Sorry.
Oh, Ray. Yeah, okay. Did you
I
just submit it right now?
No, it was last night, I believe, or yesterday.
Okay, let me take a look
Let me check.
real quick. Hold on.
I just mean because I played around with the user a bit. I was just wondering what you thought. Yeah, it was Unit 2 in class assignment, data types and variables.
Okay.
On the last one, I played with the user for fun.
Okay. So let me see right now. I didn't grade the Unit 2 assignment yet because I wanted to get everybody a chance to submit first.
Ah,
So, but yeah, I did have it. I have it right here. I see it.
okay, cool.
Okay. Any other questions? I'm glad you could attend, Ray. I wasn't sure if you were able to make it, but
Oh yeah, just through the last bit, unfortunately, I got back
yeah.
late.
Okay, no problem. So I will try to wrap up the video and then put it up. And YouTube does take a little bit for it to caption. I found that that's like the fastest turnaround compared to all the other products because right now all professors are using caption products and sometimes it takes 2 weeks and I don't want to wait 2 weeks to post a video and then it
Mhm.
just delay the process. So yeah, so I will try as soon as I can. I didn't get the stuff from last night from my other class posted yet because it did have a little bit of delay last night, but I will try to wrap it up tonight for you guys. Okay.
Okay,
All
thank
right. You're welcome. Any other questions?
you. Wait, who's this?
Okay, so it
Melissa
says
asked, yeah, sorry, you can see it?
for the I'm trying to keep parameters, I'm having a problem. Could you show? Okay. Do you want to share screen, Melissa? So I can help you with your problem? Or you don't want to share screen, you want me to show you? Okay, I see it. Okay, so if you find like the area that you need to fix, then that's okay. But if any of you want to share screen because you're having challenges, we can take a look at it because I think everybody else can also jump in too. Okay.
Can I volunteer as someone who can help people so that way I can learn?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
And that's
same.
good to troubleshoot. So Chris had also, I know many of you had learned Python before the class already. So if you want to help each other, that's great. So if in the case where if you have challenges, you can also message Chris or yeah, you can add also I had the course Q&A. You can also add your questions in there, right? And somebody else can go in and answer. I go in and answer sometimes. So I do check that periodically. I don't check it as often as my email messages, but I go into it once in a while and I'll look for the questions and I'll post the answers. So yeah, and so Chris volunteered to help. So if you want also for Chris to help you, you can also message
Yeah.
him.
Yeah, you can message me through Canvas. If you need my phone number, just message me through Canvas and I'll give it to you guys. Also, I set up a list last semester or for spring, a cybersecurity networking list. I'll post a link on it next class.
Okay. Yes, you can share that. And then good resources. It's always good to share with everybody. Thank you, Chris. Somebody asked, oh, Sean asked if you're on the Discord server.
No, I think I was gonna join, but I forgot. I lost the link, John.
Okay. So if you have some Discord, Okay, so let me see if I can type up something here for you real quick. Melissa, hang tight, okay? If everybody else, if you want to stay on, you can, right? If you don't want to stay on, then you can sign off, and then I'll see you next Wednesday. Okay. So I'll use an existing one, Melissa, that we did before, maybe the one for the floor. And I'll see if I can. Can get that up for you shortly. Okay, give me a second. So you were using the one with the key, right? Let me go back and read your chat messages.
Can you
Okay.
hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, good. Yeah, I'm just trying to do the example from the like hello name and just that, and I can't get it to accept the name. It gives me an error. It says key error name, and I have it the way it is. I don't know.
Okay. 1 second. I'm using the program for the square footage, and let me see if I can format it with the key for you to see, okay? So that way we don't have to start from scratch.
I typed in the chat what I've been just like testing and trying to get to work, and could you see what's wrong with what I had right there?
Maybe it's the
Curly
quotation.
brace, the curly brace. You have to use the key with the curly brace where it says name. Oh yeah, it is. I'm sorry.
He is using
I
curly
can't.
brackets.
Yeah. So, your name is name dot format Adam.
Could it be the quotations? Because she's using single ones on the first and then double on the.
No, it should be okay. It's just treated as a string. You can replace it. The construct of this is that it needs to have more than one with the parameter with the key. Key values for the parameter. Yeah, since you have it as one, because it's still gonna be a list. Let me look at your stuff again. But your format with the key, your format with the key Yeah, because you only have Adam as one name, Adam.
Do you need more than one parameter to do
Yes,
this?
yes, at
Oh,
least
okay.
two.
Oh, okay. Then that's probably what's going on.
So comma and then add the, so put in another value and see if you can add to it, and then like the example that's given you. Yeah, let me get my example working.
I tried adding a second parameter and I'm still getting the same error.
Oh, you don't have to put print.
No print, just
Yes.
format, because format already has that incorporated.
Yeah. So delete print.
Because take this out at the top before your name is name.
And I did that and I'm still getting the same error.
So this is okay, going back to what we did before. I'm going to show you real quick what we did in the part F. It is like that. Total name.
Wait, so what would you put in place of print?
Nothing. You
But
you wouldn't
nothing.
even,
You just start with
the quotations.
really.
Hold on, let me test something real quick.
Yeah, I tried it right now on the on the, and it's not printing out.
For the index or for the key? Which one?
Well, I wanted to do this on part F, the square footage variables, and it went straight down to only printed when the one that I did on the separate variable. It didn't print any of the key
Yeah, so
index or.
the parameter you have to have that hold some form of value before. Like, you know, if you read the chat right now on how Michelle has it, she said print hello 0, the shipping cost for the 3 item is, right? That shipping cost needs to be calculated, and the 0, the index 0 is Jack, right? So when you have it as 0, 1, when it reverts to that. So shipping cost needs to be, of course, we have to have that variable to hold some kind of value in order to pass it into the parameter. If you look at the the flooring example, I think I did that. Give me a second. Right, so here we string formatted it to 2. It's still part of the string here. And then you still need to, when you pass this variable into the parameter, this was coming from here, and then it needs to bring down here.
Oh, okay. So technically, we don't have to. Okay, we don't have to add a 0 right after the curly then.
No, only
Oh,
if
okay.
you have one, going back to what Melissa was asking earlier about the atom situation, right? So this is just going to revert to that. This is this right here, and whatever the calculation is, it's going to make it as 2 decimal places here. Okay, but now I was trying something else, like what she was saying with the key.
Yeah, now it worked.
Yeah. Well, you have to have memory. You have to have the decoration so you can have memory allocation, and it would go back to that location to retrieve the actual value that was stored. So let me see. I was trying to see what she was doing here. So you would do a print. Your name is name format Adam. Let me see.
That one seems to work too when you throw a variable in there, or when you
Yeah.
throw the placeholder.
Because it cannot just pass the variable without knowing what it is, you know. So you have to, let's see. So when you print, I want to make sure that my syntax is correct here. I have the example.
Okay, cool.
So the index got the index here, and it's going to refer to Jack and the shipping cost for these 3 items. Okay, yeah, assuming that you have shipping costs already established somewhere in the program, declared and assigned. Yes. And then trying to get the key.
Do you want to share? Do you want me to share my F part F? I did the room ones, but I did it with entering their own dimensions, and everything worked. Oh, I can't hear you.
You can do that. You can share your screen. I enable share for everyone.
Okay. So for example, what I did is I stored everything. I asked for the room dimensions here, and I input them, and then what I did is I calculated the dimensions here, then the cost of living. I also added the square. In other words, for them it would have been shipping. So I put a variable for the ship for how much it costs for the square foot. And at the very end, I calculated the total cost and everything, but I did everything separately. Living room cost is, so I did it the way it's supposed to in it. Let me run it real quick. It's over here.
That's how I originally formatted it.
Yeah, so it's let's go 10 by 10. Let's go to, so it could. So, I mean, it worked. So I don't know. I'll do G right now, and hopefully I finish it real quick.
Yeah, that's using one parameter with that's the same way that I had it formatted with the 2 decimal float. So the 2F there is a 2 decimal float.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, but their question was, they got the index to work, but their question was that when you have it as a key, right? Like, so for example, if you have it as the the key for the kitchen and the master bedroom and such, instead of using just the one parameter, using multiple parameter. Yeah, they ran into some issue there. But Michelle had posted, but yeah, you have to establish some of the variable before you can pass it into the parameter for later. Yes.
I had to walk away for a second. Were you able to figure out what was going on with the key parameter example? I can't hear you.
You need to unmute, Professor.
Yeah, sorry. I tried to hold down the space bar and it was not working. Yeah, when we ran it with the key parameter, it was doing the same thing, but the index one was working. As Michelle was saying that they were saying that yes, the variable has to be established. So possibly with the identifier that it doesn't look like it has to be established. So right now it's throwing me the same error that you had, is that it's not seeing that name in the curly brace. So possibly that there's a syntax in that example issue. Okay, 1 second. As soon as I get it working, I'll paste it into chat for you there.
Are you talking about the name is Adam1 or whatever? You're muted again. But on that one, it works if you put the little placeholder, the little 0 in it. For some reason, it doesn't like name.
Oh, no, yeah. No, the index one works. The first example that they were showing with the index 0 and 1, that one works. I know that one works because we were seeing that throughout. But as you use if you use like an identifier, like how they had it as name for Adam, and then BLC for the balance, right? That I believe that that has to be declared, and at the same time, even when I had it as declared, it's not. So let me troubleshoot it and I'll post that in there for you.
Oh, okay.
I got it. Melissa, you still there?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna share screen with you real quick. I had to go read up on it to see what's wrong with their thing. I think the clip example, it doesn't give you the overall picture. It kind of not. So I'm gonna share screen with you real quick, okay? Or with everybody. Okay, so this technically is what would be, right? So let's say that you have a variable that you give it 10, another variable you give it 2, right? This uses specific keyword, right? So here what they're saying is that with the WID, when you put name inside a curly brace, like how we were talking about name is Adam, right? You need to tell it that it's equal to something, to another. So it's like you would point it to that variable here with the W10. So you're saying that name. So technically you can say that, let's say that we would have first name is equal to Adam. And then in the keyword field, we would say first name, and then first name is gonna be equal to name, or we would say name here, and then first name is equal to name. So the way they have it is W is assigned a 10, and we declare W here. Down here they use a keyword with, and with that they would have it to specify it here when they format it.
Okay.
Yeah. So technically that's how, and then with the keyword arguments, right? So they explain that here, that the val, I'll put in this right here. I'll copy this link and I can set and put it into the chat so you can take a look at it closer, because it gives you different format there. Okay. But the val right here, and this is going to give us for the PR, for the precision with the float. So that way we can format it, and when it comes out, it should give you, like, you know, another way that we can do this is that, but it would come out with the width of that number, and that width of the number is gonna tie to the length of how many digits is in that number. But when you look at the example, it's gonna make a little bit more sense for you. Where is my chat? But yeah, I think that we might have issues with, so take a look at that website, and then when you go through the example, like halfway down, you would see that how the keyword is used there. But it's still gonna need to reference the variable that's declared, because ultimately you're passing all of that into the parameter.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So I should pull the second piece and get rid of it, because I think it's not very clear the way how it's written there. But the index one works.
All right, we'll see you in half an hour.
Okay, yeah, no problem. Speaking of that, I'm gonna get off. So if you want to finish your work and you turn it in, you can. So take care, Berto. I have another class in 30 minutes. Bye.